What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 104 of Valuetown. I'm ChanManV. That is Noxious, back from China.
Yes, that's me. That's right.
And we've got Disguised Toast on as our guest today. Welcome, Toast.
Thank you for having me. Excited to talk about all the happenings in Hearthstone.
All the happenings.
All the happenings.
Everything.
All of them.
Everything.
All of the happenings.
That sounds like a movie, The Happenings. The Hearthstone
Sounds like a
Happenings.
Chinese store name.
The Chinese store name. What's inside that store?
Joyful happenings. You just go
Joyful. That's like direct English translations of.
Yeah, of course.
Of
But that's what Chinese stores sound
Oh,
like,
it's so
dude.
bad.
We were in the Happiness Hotel in China. You think I'm fucking with you, but I'm serious.
So were you happy?
The happiness.
Did you leave
hotel.
happy?
I was the happiest I'd ever been. It was the best. I would
Nice.
recommend the Happiness Hotel to anyone. Some
Okay.
sketchy stuff goes down in the bar.
So there's
but
happy
not
endings
bad
at the bar. Is that what
place.
you're saying?
Some sketchy stuff happens at the bar. Yeah.
Okay.
Some really.
Okay.
The happiness is found there, I believe. That's
Okay.
what's supposed
You believe
to be.
you remember. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Well,
Anyway.
those of you who've never seen the show, this is a Hearthstone podcast discussion show where we talk about all the big topics as well as decks and cards and all that, just everything related to Hearthstone. And today we're going to be focused a lot on the Developers Insight, which happened this past Friday with Ben Brode and Ixar giving us some updates on a lot of the questions that we have as a community, as well as there's some additional posts that we've seen from some of the other designers too that we'll talk about. Of course, our week in Hearthstone, what decks we've been playing, maybe even Tavern Brawl. I think Toast even got a chance to play a Tavern Brawl today, and talk about some events. Noxious just got back from the WESG. Got Trinity happening right now too. And then Mekkatroque's got lots of cards actually from viewers, patrons, and Noxious has got a load of cards today. And then going to end with Q&A. Lots of email questions, which has been great. So keep sending those email questions to valuetown@chanmanv.tv and we'll try to read them out every week. But let's start with, oh yes, nothing like the good old phone. Let's start with
Professional
developers.
podcaster.
Exactly,
Dun, dun,
holy
dun.
shit, man. But Developers Insight, we had actually Ben Brode and Ixar do a live stream, which is like freaking amazing because we've been, I think most of the community has been wanting that for a long time now. So it was actually great to get a chance for them to schedule that and actually have it happen. So did you guys get a chance to watch it live or
Not me.
you watch the VODs or anything?
I watched like towards the end live where they talked about like I think inconsistency was something they talked about. They talked about like pirates, shamans in bed. Yeah, but very, very cool initiative that they took. They did a live QA, right? So they actually picked questions from like social media live and answered them.
Yeah.
Which is a bit different from in the past where Ben Brode would apparently, according to him, he sets up in his house after he puts his son to bed and then like gets the lighting all set up and sits there and then record it. Because I thought it was like he's doing it at Blizzard with like professional setups, like everything prepared for him, but apparently it's like
Who knew Ben was so much like us? All of us, or especially me and Noxious. Put the kids to bed. Let's do some YouTube videos, guys.
That's exactly what it
That
is.
is
Like
our
that's the
life.
life of just about
That
any
is
guy
our
with
life.
kids that tries to do stuff on the internet. That it's just really, really difficult. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but I
Yeah,
agree.
you can
Toast.
imagine.
Yeah.
That's what it is when you're a dev too. He feels like he has a responsibility to do it too, which makes it even more difficult to manage because he feels pressured to get it done. So
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so I agree. I thought it was at the Blizzard headquarters. Thought it was, just kind of more of I guess a priority or and then something that the whole team planned. But it turns out it was just mostly Ben, wanting to do it on the side, and that's kind of how it worked. And the editing of it, he's probably like how we all started, not much of a video editor. And I mean, I can't believe that. Where's the Blizzard video editor, right? Like you would think Ben just hands it to this guy and he just makes it into a video for him. but it kind of sounded that Ben was doing that too on top of it.
Well,
And
the big thing too, the big thing really that matters is that Benbro does not, or he mentioned that he didn't want jump cuts, right? And that's a big deal because if you don't want jump cuts, then a video editor is mostly useless, since you really don't get much besides just a one take thing. And if that's the approach he wants to go with, then it's going to take a few takes to maybe get it done without jump cuts. But ultimately, he can do it alone. It's a very one take vlogger.
it's not that he can't do it alone. That's not really the question. It's why is he doing? I mean, like I would, Ben just doing it in one take. That's fine. I can understand that. You want to do it in one take, cool.
Sure.
But he should just hand it to somebody, and somebody just makes it for him. It sounded like he was literally the initiative and doing everything, for this video just to get it out there to the community, and that was the part that surprised me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm honestly, I've always felt like Ben Brode was the kind of guy who would actually try to get the. He feels like the lifeblood of Team 5 in many ways, in terms of how much initiative he's willing to put in. Just talking to him whenever we got a chance. He cares a lot about the game, and it's really obvious. And so I'm not really surprised by that, right? Like the question you're bringing up really is, why wasn't this something the team planned for before the need came up, right? Why wasn't this something that was at the very early days of Hearthstone? All right, guys, what's your PR plan for this game? Here's the strategy. We're going to have designer insights. But that wasn't a thing. So, they kind of had to come up with it on the fly. And that's what we ended up with for a long time.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that it sounds like it's going to be, a priority now, which is great.
Yeah.
And we're going to probably see a lot more of these live streams, or at least these live developer insights. And that's kind of cool. Definitely great. Actually, it's not even kind of cool. It's just really, really good. And I think most of the community was happy, obviously, that they did that. But let's talk about the contents of which they talked about, because they covered all kinds of things. So this is one of those general developer insights, questions from Arena and Wild and new player experiences, and just so everything across the board. So if I'm going to go through this Reddit thread, this one person on Reddit, I think his name is, I guess it's Team Cabal, or no, it's Gaming Dude. He summarized a lot of these things pretty well, so I figured we'd just go through it. They started it with the new experience, so they really a new player experience. So they talked a lot about that. They touched on just kind of I guess what players typically do: go through a tutorial, then usually go to casual and AI. And one of the biggest topics right now is just how terrible the new player experience is, especially trying to get into ranked. And no question, I don't think anybody in the community will question that. It's very tough. It's tough for somebody new to come in and even know what to do. And they talked a little bit about how the matchmaking works for it and everything, and just a summary of just how ranked worked and what's good and what's not. But one thing they did talk about is just the grindiness, I guess, of the ladder too. So why don't we touch on both of those things? First off, the new player experience. They didn't really go into too much detail as to how they're going to fix that necessarily. That's they didn't talk about things like, I don't know, even things like recipes that they've talked about before, right? Recipes are obviously a very clear thing for new players and helping with that. What do you guys think, just in general, new player experience and what they talked about or what they didn't talk about there?
Well, I mean, I don't know what a new player goes through, right? They mentioned, like, the thing is, they mentioned like new players get a different matchmaking pool at the start, like both based on collection. I think, yeah. Bad Bro, or one of the designer mentioned like they actually look at your collection to try and match up against players who also don't have that big of a collection, which I thought was great, right? Because the last thing you want is a day one new player going up against legendaries in ladder. But
yeah, even at rank 25, I mean, people like having legends.
But it's like I'd be very curious to see exactly how the whole thing works. Like, at what point does Blizzard decide, okay, this guy is ready for the big time? Let's just toss him into the regular matchmaking, and then you go from very little opponents with legendaries, and now everyone's running patches, everyone's running Kazakas, everyone's running It's like it's hard. It's like a lot of content creators don't really talk about the new player experience unless people are making a big deal about it, because it's something they don't experience. Like, I don't know what a new player goes through. It's only when people are rioting on Twitter or Reddit, it's like, oh, suddenly let me talk about that new player experience. But yeah, I don't know.
But it's really interesting because I feel like the experience level, of or the player experience is kind of broken into three different things. It's like new player experience, returning player experience, and then like just us, people who've just been playing the game the entire time. And I think we can kind of understand the second one, which is like people returning just when they have some kind of collection. But yeah, the new player experience is something that I think all of us are possibly too far removed. But trying to imagine what they would need, definitely something in the ranking ladder needs to change, just to help with that. Like, yeah, they do put these folks in a special bucket for like about 10 games. It's kind of like Arena, like the first 3 games are Arena, or until you get past 3 wins or whatever it is. You're playing against literally just this pool of all kinds of different players, and including a lot of not so great players, right? And it sounds like they're doing something like that with the brand new folks straight out of the AI, playing the AI. But yeah, there's no good place to put a person directly into the rank, just the ladder. I guess there's an algorithm to match up whether the guy has cards or not, but even if, let's just say they just don't have cards, like it doesn't matter. Like if you're coming into rank 25, you're eventually going to be put in a position that you play against people with cards. And there's only 25 ranks. I think that's one thing they should consider like creating. And we can go on. They definitely talk about what they can do better, but I kind of want to get your thoughts on just the new player experience before we jump into that. So Noxious, what do you think?
I've actually made a video about this because I was, people in the chat kept bringing it up, and actually no, they kept bringing up other stuff that had nothing to do with the new player experience, and it was stuff like the metagame sucks, everything's bad, and then they mentioned, well, Blizzard is greedy was standard. They don't want me to keep my old collection cards. They want to rotate, evergreen stuff out of the game and into wild, and they want to leech my money and everything. And the truth of it is, like, I understand where they're coming from, but they're really conflating 2 issues, right? One of which is, well, I have these cards that I can't use anymore, which is a problem in and of itself, or not even a problem, but a fact once rotations happen. And the fact that card acquisition is too slow, right? So to me, the new player experience is really dictated by how fast you can catch up. It's got nothing to do with which cards you had that you can't use anymore. I mean, that's more to do with like if you're older and you've played Force of Nature Savage Roar forever and then they nerf it, that sucks a little bit. But it's not a case of the game sucking and trying to leech you out of your money. The truth of it is, people just don't get cards fast enough in Hearthstone. Like, you want to catch up, it takes fucking forever. And that's true of most free-to-play games. And this is one of the gripes I have with the term, I guess, free-to-play, which should probably be something like free-to-try. As for the most part, you get to try the game, and it's really fucking awesome. Like, Hearthstone's great. First few games you have as a new player, I can tell you from having watched my wife go through that process, having watched friends go through that process, they fucking love it. It's great. But then they hit that brick wall, which is usually, I think, when, they go into ranked for the first few times, when, well, okay, what can I really build with this card pool that I have, right? What, with the basic card pool, can I come up with in terms of synergy? And they quickly find out that, okay, they make a Beast Hunter. That's an obvious one. They make an All Spell Mage. That's an obvious one. They make Inner Fire Priest. Then they make Enrage Warrior. Then they make Charge Warrior. They try like all these different types of builds with just the basic card pool. And they quickly figure out which ones are bad and which ones are good. They make, of course, the Almighty Taunt deck that everybody makes. The first one of the first few decks they make. So at some point, though, they're looking for like more refined synergies. And when they see them, right, like they get somebody up against them playing. Like, let's go back to like the Mech Mage days, and the guy just goes like Mech Warper, play like Annoyotron, and just go like spam the board. And then they realize they died to that. They're like, holy shit, that was cool synergy. This Mech Warper, the guy held the coin and played it. Getting to do that is actually not that easy if you don't have a big collection. For instance, I want to make a Jade Golem deck. No Ad Blackpaw. I'm shit out of luck, probably. I want to make a Pirate aggro deck right now. No patches. Sure, I can climb, but it's going to be a lot worse than if I had it. And all those synergies tend to be gated behind paywalls because they tend to be more complex, and that's where the devs want complexity to be in higher, rarity levels. So, to me, that's what the new player experience boils down to. Is I feel like legendaries matter too much as a new player. Uh, I don't feel that way. I mean, I could probably
I
play like a cheap deck, but the
well,
new player feels that way.
yeah, and a lot of that, what you said is I mean, completely true. But a lot of that is focused on, how the new player compares, to the other folks on ladder, and so I think ladder is a big, is totally tied into this conversation. And
Yeah, it has to.
yeah, so why don't we talk about the ladder portion? So they pointed out, things like what's not working well, or what is working well is that it's very easy to understand. We have 25 ranks, we get X number of stars to be promoted to the next rank, and then you get into legend, and then they have its own ranking system in legend. So yes, that's definitely easy to understand, and that's definitely good. What's not working is it's super grindy, and it only lasts 30 days too. It's like a single month too, and maybe the single month isn't so much something that's not working, but definitely grindiness. Every time we finish a season, we have to restart at rank 15, even if you're like number 1 legend, still have to start at rank 15. So they address that by, or at least not address it, but they posed the question to us. So how do we make it better? And they suggested a few things. So one thing is increasing the number of bonus stars, each time you get on a streak, and maybe even carrying it on just even further than rank 5. I think that was maybe not explicitly said, but it was implied, I think, when I was listening to it. Maybe have a breaking point, kind of like Overwatch has, your career high or your season high, that sort of thing. Maybe similar to that. So once you clear 15, once you clear 10, once you clear 5, you can't go below it. So it's a little bit different than Overwatch because you can actually drop below it SR wise.
Drop below,
yeah,
yeah,
but
it's
your
a lot easier
overall
to go
ranking
into a higher rank on the following season.
Well, I
for
mean,
instance.
your status is still what your highest was. And then also, let's see what other. Actually, that's most of the things that they suggested, and then they talked about some of the good and bad things, which you might have too many people. If you give too many bonus stars, you have too many people in legend, and they want that to still be an achievement to get to legend and things like that. But what do you guys think about those suggestions?
So I like the gated one because right now, like every 30 days, like streamers like you know like myself, we go back to rank 17, right? And we wanna hit legend. I think all streamers, kind of want to hit legend just so it's some like for me, hitting legend is a chore that I have to do every month.
Yep.
Because if I don't have that little orange crystal at the bottom corner, like when people watch me, it's like, oh man, he's not even legend. He's a bad player.
I know
Even though
exactly what that is. Yeah.
getting legend itself isn't a huge display of skill. Like, yes, you have to like understand the game pretty well to be able to hit legend consistently, but at the same time, it's like I'm not a better player just because I had legend. Like when I had legend, I didn't suddenly become, a
I
good
haven't
player.
improved. Like you just
Yeah,
haven't gotten better than the past season. And that's what
exactly.
bothers me the most. I think you're right.
So it's something I have to do, even though it doesn't really mean that much. And it is a grind. Like I'm at rank 3 and it's like I want to play fun decks. I want to play, OTK
Yeah.
Priest. I want to play Hunter or Paladin. But I know if I play, I'm gonna drop down to rank 6. And even though I'm having fun doing it, it just means I have to try hard even more down the line to get to legend again. So like for me, I like the idea of having like breakpoints. But another thing is I wonder if they should add like another rank beyond legend. Because right now legend goes up to 10,000 on EU server, right? I think it'd be cool.
Super
But it's
legend.
probably yes, something like that. It's probably unacceptable because the difference between top 100 legend and bottom 100 legend is like a whole it's a huge gap. But that's not really captured in terms of just legend rank. But that's probably another discussion.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
mean,
think it's a
there's
minor
an
thing. I think
argument
people,
to
you,
be
you could
made.
easily do that. Top 100 legend, just have something else.
Yeah, I don't think it would be too hard to like add the elite section of Legend, for instance. Like,
Mhm.
actually, you could call it elite if you wanted, really. The point is, like, adding more ranks is a solution, but one of the problems is again, it's a card game, and the moment you add a ranking system in a card game with the RNG that's inherent, uh, I feel like you can't add drop offs to those elite ranks because like the breaking point where there's no threshold where you can't drop below it,
Mm-hmm.
because then it becomes way too easy for there to be fluctuations where someone gets there and then, oh, hey, they're stuck in that top 100. Like they secure a spot in there because they had their good streak before other people. One of the things that's kind of annoying about ranking system in card games is that, yeah, over time it does even out, but in the immediate sense, it doesn't feel like you're really improving. It's kind of rare. Like honestly, like the few times I've learned something about Hearthstone is when I've actually sat down and watched the game. I learned more by watching Hearthstone and replays of pros while casting than I actually do playing. I've done more watching than playing Hearthstone, and that's just a testament to how
There's a lot of
little
people that do that.
Right. That's what I mean is like how little grinding the ladder really does for you. It helps a lot, if you want the HCT points, if you want to get practice in, get multiple hours. Of course, you're going to be better by getting more practice in. But the truth of it is, there are a lot of legend players that don't put in that many hours because what they do is they simply watch more and analyze their replays and just get there quick because they don't make mistakes. And because the grinding system is so time consuming, it actually plays against the type of puzzle dynamic that I think Hearthstone wants you to engage in, which is, hey, this game is a puzzle. You want to get the best possible, statistically viable play every single time. But to do that the best of your ability, you have to sink a lot of time in analyzing games as opposed to playing them. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I know what you mean by that. Yeah, I would like to see something that's kind of just with a little bit of both of what you guys have said. I would like to see career and season highs. Okay. Because, if you did season highs, then the top 100, I mean, you still have a real top 100, but, you don't have people just squatting in top 100 like you were suggesting, Noxious. So they can drop out of top 100, but at least you have your career high. You have that symbol you can show to your, your audience if you're a streamer or, whatever it is, right? Like you have that kind of achievement. And when it comes down to it, that's what all of this should be to the average player, Hearthstone. It's like the average player isn't a legend player, right? They're trying to achieve the next level. And right now, the next level is like, okay, I'm going from rank 17 to rank 16. And like, that just doesn't feel like anything. You know what I mean? It's literally a number that's higher. And then, okay, there is like a little icon that's a little different. But do we really know the icons for rank 20 through 10 off the top of your head? No, exactly. Okay. No, you're not supposed to spend that much time, Noxious. Like if you don't know,
I couldn't tell you. I just couldn't.
Yeah. So I would like to see them do the bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond thing. Like it's worked for so many of their other games, Blizzard, like and other dev titles too. Why not do it here?
Yeah, that also reminds me like the season reset where every high level player goes back to 17.
God, yeah.
Like
yeah, that's just
like
what the hell.
Like new players don't know that. They're like, hey, it's January 2nd. Let me try this new Hearthstone game. It's like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on?
What have you done to yourself, dude?
It's like, oh, that's a cool card back. I wonder how you get it. Oh, Hell Legend. Okay.
Yeah, the best thing is like they start on like the 29th. And then they're like, this game's pretty fucking awesome. They get on the first, oh, your rank is reset. They're like, oh, that changed nothing for me. I went from 23 to 25. And then they eventually just climb back up. They have more time that weekend. And then they end up in like rank 19. They're like, oh, this game is great. I climbed from 25 to 19 now. And it's just like fucking patches time now. Like the beginning of the season just hit. And they're just completely mind blown as to what's going on.
Well, here's an interesting question for you. Because I've always felt that, I feel like legend folks should just start at rank 5. And I think general consensus, that's probably what people would like to see. But as a streamer, what do you guys think? I mean, the nice thing about actually resetting and starting over is that, traversing yourself back up the ladder is actually, something that you can do as a streamer. Sometimes you just don't know what to do as a streamer. What should I do today? Well, at the beginning of every month, it's very clear the first week or first 3 to 5 days, you just climb yourself back up to whatever. So how do you feel about that?
That's definitely a valid point. It's like something to do, something to essentially, I guess, show off your Hearthstone knowledge. I know Hidden Legend, like I've said, it's not like a huge achievement, but it's like you can try hard a little bit and say, okay, be serious about playing what. And there's like a counter. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Legend.
Yeah.
But so there's 2 ways you can kind of do it. You can stay in the rank 10s, the teens, and play fun decks and play against fun decks. One thing hard about playing fun decks in Legend is even though you're playing the fun deck, your opponent's just going to patches you. It's going to, he's not going to try to have fun with you. He's going to kill you as try hard as you can.
Right.
But if you stay in the ranked teens, it's like your opponents are either newer or they more casual, or they're playing fun decks as well, which is why they're
Well,
at
that's the
10.
hope. I found that to be untrue of recent
Really?
memory. Yeah, I swear, like unless you're rank 19, like the moment you hit like 17, it's net dexed all the way up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's gotten really toxic in terms of having. It's been like this for a while actually.
Yeah.
Like every day, I get the question on Twitter or through Gmail or whatever. Somebody's asking, "Hey, when are you playing Randuin next?" Right, like the random priest deck that I used to run with mind games and everything.
Yeah.
And the only response I can give them is, "I'm not playing it anymore because there's literally zero deck that I beat with this. There is not a single deck that doesn't tempo me down. Even Reno decks will tempo it. Like that's what I mean. There's nothing left for that deck to even have fun with." And beyond that, there's also the fact that RNG is a lot less fun after you've had an actual competitive meta with Yogg and Paladin Shredder. But it's
I mean,
it's
you could
just
argue you're
weird.
supposed to play in casual for stuff like that.
Well,
you
but the
know?
thing is, casual still sees people practicing, and a lot of the decks that you see there are still like, let's say, a Murloc deck, right? Some people build a Murloc deck and go to casual, and it's still a tempo deck that shits on Randuin Rin because as new expansions come out, the power level of cards is going up, and that deck is using only old cards,
Yeah.
and none of the fun new cards actually have stat lines worth of shit. So it's not like we were given like an ETC to play with, right? Like a new fun card is Draconic Operative, but it fits in a shell that's just the driest, most boring thing ever. So you have like one fun card in the entire deck.
I think Gadget Zan introduced a meta that's very focused on the new cards.
Yeah.
If you look at everything right now, it's pretty much your deck either has a Kazakus or it has
It's the 6-0.
patches.
It's a 6-0 diagram.
Exactly, yeah.
The flow chart.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're either playing
much.
Kazakus or you're playing patches, and these are new cards from the latest expansion. But it's the last expansion of the year. Usually, it's at this point where decks become super refined, like
Yeah.
Shaman, Whispers of the Old Gods. They got Flameless, Faceless Flame Wreath, Faceless, and Thing from Below. Their power level goes up. They then get Spirit Claw and Maelstrom. Their power level goes up. Now they're getting the Jade package and the Pirate package. So like
They're about to lose like half of that stuff, but
yeah, Tunnel Trog and Totem Golem rotates out in April, which I'm really excited for because it's a whole new meta shift. But it's just right now, a lot of the focus is on the new set, and the worst decks are not the worst deck, but the strongest deck are very optimized right now. So everyone's just playing them. So if you try to have fun, it's really tough.
yeah. Well, let's talk about the current meta because they in order sequentially they actually talked about Arena, but let's talk about the current meta since you kind of brought it up. So they touched on just the pirate decks. They basically said that the numbers do show that there are very high numbers of it, and but it did drop off a bit from the very first few weeks where we saw literally Pirate Warrior after Pirate Warrior. Then it turned into Shaman Warrior or Shaman Pirate, sorry. And now with the Kazakus decks and the Reno decks starting to keep those in check, we're seeing a little bit less of it, but it's still more popular than they'd like. And that discussion really pointed out that they really look at just frequency of decks, and that is an issue that they see. So not only is it powerful, and usually when it's powerful it's popular, right? But if it is in this rare case where it's not, even if it's not that powerful but it's super popular, that's still not a good thing in their eyes.
Yeah, they're right. Meta shift. At the start, it was just Pirate Warrior. I don't see that much Pirate Warrior. But now it's been Aggro Shaman. So they're right in the sense that, things change and you shouldn't just rush out. It's like after 2 weeks of Gadgetzan, they didn't rush out to nerf patches because of Pirate Warrior. Yeah. But I definitely do agree. It's like,
but they were surprised. They were surprised how popular pirate, or at least how many classes were playing pirates after this.
I think you can expect Warrior to play. You can expect Rogue to kind of play because they have the hero power and Swashbuckler. But when Shaman with no pirates, like, oh wow, I'm just gonna stick small time Buccaneer into my deck.
Right.
I don't run any
Paladins
other pirate.
too, yeah.
I'm just get that in there because so strong. It's like, I guess there's some of them run South Sea Deckhand, but
Oh yeah, you do see South Sea Deckhand, but the point is their class has nothing to do. like nothing at all to do with pirates, right? Ever, and somehow like they're finding room for it, which is kind of the point you're bringing up. And I think that's where Blizzard maybe didn't anticipate that it would come out, as strongly as it did. But to go back to the problem that it's causing is like once shamans lose their own class specific aggro package of Trog Totem Golem, like that pirate package is good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly as impressive because they won't have it every time as frequently as rogues have with the Swashbuckler on top of the pirate package, warriors with Nazat's first mate. Like shamans just don't have anything else than the neutral one, so they'll have like a lower frequency of it once the rotation hits, and I think that might even things out.
Yeah.
Well, it should even things out quite a bit. Like it's not even that it might; it probably will.
They'll still be good. It's just they won't be ridiculously good, like the way
It'll
they
be
are right
fine,
now.
but
Yeah. They went
losing a
on.
lot.
Yeah. So the both of them went on to talk about Paladin and Hunter too, and just answering questions about right now. It feels like Paladin and Hunter are in a bad spot in the meta. They're just not fast enough to deal with the pirates. They don't partake in the pirates so much. Paladins do. I've definitely seen some pirate paladin, but for them, definitely hunters don't partake in it just because they don't have a cheap enough weapon. And what's the state of those two classes? And their answer was right now pirates seem to be, I guess keeping them down, suppressing those two classes. But they think that in the future, once the pirate decks do subside, then hunter and paladin will come back. What do you guys think? You think that will happen? I mean, you think Hunter will come back?
I mean, it's really hard to say, right? It really depends on what they introduce. But I mean, you can say that about any deck. It's like, well, let's see what the next expansion bring. I'm sure things will change, and I am sure things will change. But yeah, Paladin. So I played like 50 games to Legend from rank 5. I didn't face a single Paladin or Hunter. Not a single.
Yeah,
Two
no
class out of 9.
It's crazy.
Not a single
I'm surprised
one.
you didn't remember Paladin. Paladins, even Murloc Paladins were around, at least in the beginning, but not so much now.
But yeah, like some people think about Call of the Wild. They say, okay, what if you unnerf Call of the Wild to 8?
Like that's gonna help. Like it's, I don't know. I don't
It's
think that would do anything.
Yeah, it's really hard to say, but
Yeah.
yeah. Pirates is too fast, and Hunter, before Gadgets End, they were pretty good. Secret Hunter was a really strong deck. But it's surprising how even though they lost nothing, they can get completely phased out. But yeah, I mean, some classes always have to be on the bottom, right? Hunter has its time. In Karazhan, Secret Hunter was good. I kind of feel bad for Paladin because it's been a long time since Mysterious Challenger that they had a decent deck. Control Nazoth was okay. Murloc Paladin's okay. I mean, right now someone's winning with Murloc Paladin at tournament right now. The Trinity series, I think Thijs went 5-0 with it.
That's
it's just
crazy,
It's
'cause
a really good deck. Like people just
I-
complain about Paladin. The only class I would complain about is Hunter. Like complaining about Paladin right now, it's okay. I mean, I won't argue it, but I think Hunter is in a much worse state for many more reasons than just the pirate
Yeah,
deck.
yeah. I mean, they brought up Paladin Hunter mostly because of the hand buffing, right? That's the big thing they got out of this expansion, and currently, like, we're not even seeing it, so it's just like somewhat of a way. It's like Inspire-like in some ways. We're not even seeing these things even being used. So they're mostly wondering whether it'll come back or it'll be able to present themselves. I don't know if they will. Like the pirates have to subside. It's just too fast. Like maybe give Hunter a cheap weapon and they can play pirates too, and then all of a sudden they can kick in.
That's
But
what you
it's
don't want
tough.
to do, right? Like you don't want to homogenize the meta even more.
Yeah,
like one
I
of the
know.
things
That's
is
true.
pirates already Hunter has like I presented you that deck early in the expansion where I showed you very minion centric deck with scavenging hyenas. That thing just destroyed people. Like it just completely tore them apart. Unless they were playing a pirate package, and that was the big issue. Like you struggled against Reno decks a little bit, but it was less of a problem. And one of the things that killing the pirate package off, if it were to ever happen, which I doubt it will, what that does, it actually frees up a lot of room for something like Jade Druid to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And if Jade Druid comes up, then Hunter can just be like, okay, time to come out and play, because I can actually do pretty well against the Druid deck, for instance, as Hunter. You'll just curve them out, get a good Dispatch Kodo on curve, kill their Jade stuff, and you just snowball and you kill them before they get to stabilize, like you've always done. Like Hunter's always done that. Besides, like the Malygos era with Arcane Giant. So I don't know if things would change that much, but I could definitely see Hunter being good if Pirate Package just subsides a little bit.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
It'd have to be gone, like literally just gone for it to be like Pirates to be gone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like if you nerf the package enough, Hunter's actually got a pretty good pace. Like the curving of the deck of the hand buff is actually just fucking fine. It's just not broken.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
The pacing of its curve is just perfectly okay. It's just not all like way over the top, and that's why it looks like it's a weak thing.
Yeah, I mean they got some really like decent cards in the gadgets now.
Insane cards, yeah. They got
Trog Beast Rager, Dispatch Kodo, Shaky Zip Gunner, Rat Pack.
Yeah,
it's all nice cards, but somehow they are not being played, which is
well, they're not being played because they just can't even get them out. Like, you know, it's everything's just too fast, and then by the time your opponent has tempo, then those cards just don't even have enough impact anyways on the game. And those cards, like the cards that they came out with Hunter, were good like a year ago. You know what I mean? Like they would have been great like in the game I think a year ago, and fantastic for Hunter, and Hunter would just be probably incredibly strong. But currently they're just not quick enough, and then the buffing's not as good as the Paladin ones are either. Even though they're nice single minion buffs and you can tempo it out. I mean, we got Kazakus decks out there, like they just eliminate all of those cards fairly easily, even with a 5-mana potion. So it's just not quite strong enough. They're not bad. It's just they're not strong enough by, like on the standards of like the other cards, like you were saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also want to talk about turn 2 Doomsayers and how often they get killed in this meta.
Yeah.
Turn 2 Doomsayers? Oh god.
It drives me insane because I
it's ridiculous. Doomsayer. It is ridiculous.
Like I'm okay if you kill Doomsayer with like Shadow Word Pain or Crazed Alchemist, right? Because you're using a tech to beat it, or like you're using up a card, or you're losing some tempo to counter a Doomsayer. But it's like against Pirate Shaman, it's like they don't miss a beat. It's like, okay, instead of 7 damage that I was gonna do anyway to your face, I'm just gonna do to the Doomsayer. I don't have to use a card. I don't have to play suboptimally. I'm just redirecting that damage to your face. So a 2-mana 7 heal is not bad, but it does nothing for the board. And in the past, it's like turn 2 Doomsayer. Like if you coin it out, it's like the safest play you can possibly do to like ensure your opponent does not have anything. It's like coin turn 2 Doomsayer. It's very inefficient. It's very premature. But my god, I need to stop my opponent. But even now, that's not enough anymore. It's like if your opponent plays like a Celsi, they can like get Patches Celsi, Fling Tongue for 7 damage. Or they turn 1 Small Time Buccaneer into War Axe, 7 damage. It's
very common. It's like 30%, 40% of the time. They maybe like 25%, something like that. Like they can remove it, and it's just like, wow. I mean, this is exactly what Doomsayer was made for, and we can't remove it. Seriously, this is crazy. Yeah. I know you're paying, man. That's great. Seems wrong, like. So the only real way to keep it intact is to remove it. To have your weapon that kills it, or have your lightning bolt or your smite or whatever it is, right?
Like when my opponent uses a lightning bolt on it, it's like, okay, that's fair. He used a card.
That's fine, but when he develops a board on top of it, that's when I just get triggered.
Exactly.
I actually get triggered.
Oh, man.
Okay, I'm fucking done here. I'm out.
Okay, let's move on. They talked about Arena a little bit, and they're going to add top 100 rankings in February. Thank God. Oh.
Just before we move on to the whole Reno thing, I think Paladin right now, aside from the Anyfin deck, which is very obvious, it actually has like decent hand buff decks you can make, but no one's giving them credit, and I don't know why they're getting so little attention. Like you can actually you can easily make a hand buff deck that'll get you a legend with Paladin. It's just people build that stuff so wrong. It's like Actually, I should have probably brought a list that I made, but it's like that type of deck is good. You can build it control, you can build it more mid-range, you can bring back stuff like Argent Commander, like you can actually make something of that archetype.
Yeah.
But no one's really willing to give it a shot, and they just pretend like nothing. Well, actually, no, they don't know that it works because they actually don't know how to deck build, so they net deck and bitch when it doesn't. That's exactly what's happening with that archetype.
Yeah.
People are waiting for somebody to spoon feed them like an actual functional deck.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
should have
saying
brought
it's
one,
tier
actually.
1.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's tier 1 and it's gonna win you tournaments. I'm just saying that deck will get you to legend, and if you can't do it, then it's not because the deck has no potential. It's just not a deck you've come up with yet.
We should bring one next week to
Trick
look at.
by the complaints about Pally.
I mean, I've tried hand buff Pally, but it's really, you really have to plan out your buffs. It's like, don't just play, Smuggler's Run straight up turn 1 for the buff. You have to like wait for the right cards and the right moments and the right buffs. So like it's probably a bit more complicated than your average deck because it's based on hand buffing. If you're hand buffing now, you're not hand buffing, maybe a doppelgangster you're running or fight promoter, but you get more curve out, and it's like you have to play optimally.
Yeah, you definitely do.
It's good to run I mean, I've seen versions with the pirates even in the beginning too, just to kind of get you started, and then gives you some time to get into the mid game also.
So I have like 2 general approaches to that hand buff deck, which I'll touch on, and then we'll move on from that point because without deck list, it's kind of futile. Is either you build it to be more like aggressive / mid-rangey, and you put the smugglers runs, or you put it, you build it control, and then you cut out the smugglers runs, you put in stuff like Doomsayers in the early game, and you still play the Grime Street Enforcer and the Outfitter. So you really have 4 hand buff cards. Going all in on the hand buff seems kind of, it's not like a Jade deck. A Jade deck just kind of compounds itself further and further the more of it you put. But that deck, like that mechanic, doesn't need you to just shove everything in. Like it never tells you that. Jade Golem is kind of a requirement. You have anything Jade, just shove it in, and it's gonna probably do good. But that deck, if you put all the hand buff, you'll run out of good stuff to buff in the first place, and out of control tools and out of removal. So there's like a fine balance to it. So I like the control list a bit more, where you don't play the Smuggler's Run and instead you play Doomsayers and stuff. But there's the other route where you play stuff like Organ Infiltrator and actually try to get counter pirate play without the pirate package yourself. Maybe in slashing, like slapping an Argent Lance, which I thought like was just the best card for Paladin's expansion.
Yeah,
most underrated card for this expansion for Paladin by far, and you just see no one playing it. And it's really just people not having a net deck to go to at this point. That's what I think.
Yeah, I've been experimenting. Like last night, I played with the Pirate Dragon Paladin, just to get a feel for that. I've definitely tried buff Dragon before in Paladin, but it's always the beginning. The beginning is the hardest part to traverse. Like once you get past the beginning, then you got legitimate chances to just flood the board and overwhelm your opponent with just some ridiculously sized minions, which is like really, really fun when you pull it off. But just figuring out what to do in the beginning. And I honestly, I think Argent Lance is great with the pirate package. Like I've had a lot of success with that recently.
Okay, with the pirate package? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it works.
I haven't been able to really run the pirate package in Pally. I've had a lot of trouble with it.
It just takes 4 cards. It's 5 cards or something, right?
But you need a lot of weapons for it to really do anything in that deck.
Yeah, 4. I mean, it's not terrible in that sense, but it's mostly just to combat, just their pirates. It's not for you to gain crazy tempo, because you will gain tempo mid range if you're buffing stuff, right? So been trying a few of those things. I wouldn't say it's like a ton of success or not, but it's not bad. By no means is it bad. So I feel like it is tweakable to be something climbable, to legend at least.
Sure.
Yeah,
okay. That makes sense.
Well, let's see. Moving on. We've been spending a lot of time here. Maybe we can just fly through the rest of these. So Arena. So they're going to be adding a leaderboard, like top 100. Thank goodness. I think a lot of us have been wanting that, just to see who the actual top Arena players are, and they can get a chance to work for that. That's really cool. 30 run requirement too. So I think that's enough. 30 is good. But in terms of, I guess, just the meta of the Arena, I feel like it's in a pretty good spot. They just talked really briefly about making it a little bit more like standard and possibly just going to a standard card set. Maybe just touch a little bit on this. Like, what do you guys think of that? Would you like to see Arena in standard or with standard card set?
So, I'm not a big Arena player. recently. Like I've played a few runs, but like my feeling is that you don't really play around anything besides like very
Yeah,
specific
that's
cards,
right.
like turn 7 Flame Strike or turn 7 Abyssal Force. Most time you're just playing, optimally. You making smart trade, smart curve value plays, right? Like there's no really things you have to think about. Like if they MC tech you or they like slam down a freaking Deathwing, it's like okay, I'm not. It's arena. There's so many options. There's so many like wild cards out there. And there's gonna be even more. That it's really hard to really play around, which is fine. Like arena's a very different skill set from constructed, where it's more about game knowledge. Arena's more about like knowing good trades, optimizing your turns and value, which is fine. So I don't know if that's gonna be like an amazing change, but that's one thing I noticed is that you don't play around that much stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think, Noxious? Standard
I
versus
mean,
wild?
if I personally don't, I don't care for standard arena, but I wouldn't mind if they changed what cards are allowed in, as opposed to making the whole thing a standard.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
agree.
always the option of just, we talked about that like in my wish list, but I would love to see them expand on the arena system. I mean, sure, you would, split the player base, but how about like an arena rotation every week, just like Tavern Ball? Like one week it's standard, the other week it's like you have exactly GVG and the other
Right.
expansion or whatever. Like you actually shuffle the card pool every so often, maybe like every
That's good.
month, because it's more reasonable, so you can specialize and maybe solve that expansion combination. Like, what if I told you all you could get was, GVG and the Grand Tournament and Classic Evergreen? That's different than having access to some of the new stuff and the newer sets. And suddenly, the dynamic changes where if GVG is around, Paladin gets mini bot and Monster for Battle. Now we're talking like it's going to be high frequency.
Yeah.
And maybe that's enough to just make them top tier. And the same can happen with other expansions. Like if Priest gets access to Onyx Bishop, Priest of the Feast, and Potion of Madness, for instance, in a set, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that rotation is where they shine because the two most recent sets are available and not the older ones. So Mage loses a bunch of stuff, and you have some of the really good cards and Priest still available. So that's one of the ways I would probably tackle it, to add diversity, because I think the Tavern Ball system of switching things up is magnificent. Like that's one of the things I love most about it. Is just everything's different every single time you go in, every single week. It's like, oh, I'll play a few games of this, and it's super different. For arena, you can actually hardcore and get a different experience every month. That would be great. I think that would just be
Actually, I think that's a very good suggestion, because there's nothing holding arena to being the same thing. Like unlike competitive Hearthstone, right? Like HCT, like okay, the ranked has to be standard because HCT uses the ladder, and it's all tied in. So of course it's hard to change anything about that. But yeah, with arena, it is really in some ways no different than Tavern Ball. You could literally just switch it up as much as you want, and yeah, I think alternating back and forth would be nice. I would say one thing that is nice about considering standard is that right now I don't know what the crossover is between ranked play and arena players, but I feel like if you made it standard, it would be something that's a little bit easier or more accessible to the people that only play ranked, because they would understand it a bit better. We're always talking about people. We always come into it thinking that everybody knows all the cards, like wild cards. But in reality, there are some new players that don't know any of the old wild cards. So when they go into arena, it's literally like, what is this card? Like, I've never seen this card before. Yeah, it's like, do I pick this? I have no idea. So there is some kind of accessibility there between the two modes. And I think that promotes arena even more. It might actually encourage folks to play arena a little bit more too. So that's one positive. Overall, I think, arena having its own little, nuance and, its own completely different environment is a good thing. So rotate the cards. That's definitely a good thing. And why don't we wrap up with trying to see if there's anything that really, really huge to talk about so that we can just move on. We spent a lot of time on this. I think that's about it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of little things that they did talk about, but we should move on since we have a lot of other things to talk about, or at least some other things. But definitely a good thing from Ben and Dean. Like, keep doing these, please. Like, because I think it was a success. And I suggested to them just over Twitter that it'd be nice if maybe the developer insights were done a little bit more frequently, maybe twice a month, but specific to certain parts of Hearthstone, so that you can really dive into it. You know what I mean? Like
arena,
yeah,
Q&A,
just all
whatever.
arena, just meta balance, or just whatever. I think people would get like their questions answered thoroughly if we did that way.
Yeah. I think the problem with like doing it live and too frequently or too generally is that it's always going to be the same question every time. Like if they don't nerf, let's say they don't nerf small time buck and patches until they don't plan to every week. Let's say they do that every week. People are going to ask the same question. And when you're nerfing patches, when you're nerfing patches, when you're nerfing patches. So yeah, I definitely agree. Like themed, like with a specific topic in mind, would do a lot better. And they don't actually have to do it live, in my opinion.
Yeah, me either. I don't think they do.
I think doing it live is not as good as doing it pre-recorded. Like live, you do get the questions straight up, and it's like it feels a bit more authentic. But it's also like they're very careful not to say anything that will
trigger people. Yeah,
exactly, right. So they're like I don't know.
They're
if they
much more hesitant.
size,
they're much more hesitant, and it can be awkward, is what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like, even if there's something that they can answer or they want to answer, they kind of have to be like, okay, maybe I should talk with PR first or something.
Yeah. What about this question? Can I really speak on this? Although, like, if you're Ben Bro, you probably have some degree of decision making that belongs to you at this point, with the role that he's been assigned the team now. So I'm pretty sure it's fine. But yeah, talking to PR is another one of these considerations that they definitely have to keep in mind.
I'm really glad they did the first one live though, because it just feels more intimate, I guess you could say, something that we've been lacking. We've been having a disconnect with them. So I felt like, doing it live is a little bit more, connecting with us in a way. I don't think they have to do it live every single time, but that is one positive thing about doing it live. And it's not like, oh, they totally totally edited this thing out and they just, made it sound like exactly. It's like going to be one of those Ben Bro videos that people edit anyways into him saying all kinds of freakish things.
So we like to feed on your tears as ladder experience finding. Murlocs are awesome, and we really like awesome Murlocs. So we would like awesome Murlocs to kill you in one turn.
Exactly,
the
man.
type of stuff.
But yeah, keep doing it though. Just more communication, and it sounds like that's what they're planning on doing. So yeah, let's keep it going. All right, let's